This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter at @BackupBradleyAbove and everything that we're talking about here today. What we're going to talk about today is the final piece to the puzzle, and it's not XRP. We'll get to it in a second. Let's start with some lighter news, but it is important, and you're going to need to know it, no doubt about it. You're going to need to know it for the rest of your time as an investor. Believe that. All right, so here we go. Let's start with, let's start with this right here. Current administration said there's still a chance for a stimulus package can be passed here domestically in the United States from the current administration before the presidential election. The U.S. president has said he is prepared to increase his $1.8 trillion stimulus offer if it helps reach a deal with the House of Representatives. I think this is something to really pay attention to, not only for the fact that, people are struggling. There's been a deliberate shutdown of the economy across the globe as well as here in the United States. But I also want to keep an eye on this too because, look, I still haven't received my first stimulus check. And there's 9 million other people just like me. So a part of this is also about paying attention to this to see if they go to a digital delivery of that stimulus, which would be fantastic because then we know we could get our money. And that may involve a digital dollar and a digital wallet. Now, that's the eternal optimist here. But I think nevertheless, whether you are eternal optimist like me or not, you're going to want to pay attention to this to see what happens because the world and the country does need the money. There's north of 30%, or it might be 26% right now, of all full-time workers are out of work in the United States. That is an incredibly profound number. Okay, let's keep this moving because right now we want to move to Germany's Börse digital exchange, BSDEX, announces Ethereum, Litecoin, and XRP trading against the euro. Again, I would remind people this is just a sign to me that not only is the space opening up and broadening with the pairing to the euro, but if there was a problem with XRP and its classification globally, I think we would see it by them not expanding to major currency pairs. So that's a nice sign nonetheless. Let's keep going, and we're about to get into this thing. What Blockchain and Payments 2020 report makes abundantly clear is that blockchain is no longer an exotic emerging technology. It is a mature technology that is being battle tested and continues to advance both in terms of use cases and adoption. Absolutely well said, Ripple. 44% of respondents in production have recorded strong business growth in the past 12 months. Well, to build on that point, Ripple chief says payments firms doubling down on the XRP after crypto asset hits $2 billion in cross-border milestone. Damn, I like seeing that. And look, I think, again, this goes to the call to action for the Digital Commodities Exchange Act, which we're going to take a look at a part of that in just 1 second. And it is a very, very important part, I believe, as well as the whole document and the whole act is. But this is going along with the call to action that look at what's happening here. This is no longer people toe dipping and checking the water out. This thing is growing, and it's growing very, very quickly as a solution for the new financial infrastructure. We all know what it's for, and so do the largest players in the world. And we're going to talk about why they haven't got it and why they haven't used it in full at this point, and we're going to cover that. This is a nice little piece here. Rothschilds, one of the richest families in the world, buys a position in Bitcoin. Rothschild's Investment Corporation has bought 27 Bitcoins in a stock form through Grayscale's GBTC. They're reporting a holding of $1.4 billion in assets, and let's see, I think it's $235,000 worth of it now is being held in Bitcoin. Rothschild's Investment Corporation has bought the 27 Bitcoins in stock from Grayscale's GBTC, and that makes them one of the most prominent banks to buy Bitcoin, most likely for the one of their private clients, with this being just one of many banks owned by the Rothschilds, that's for sure. Here you can see the overall asset under management, 1.4 billion plus, and the 235,000 into GBTC. Now, Rothschild family is one of the richest families on earth. and they have even chaired an initial coin offering. Now, this is interesting because this is like toe dipping. Now, before we go on, I want to point out too, Hiding Out Now made a great point that everybody needs to know if you're in this space and you don't know this. Hiding Out Now, shout out to you, my friend. But they own part of SBI, which owns a chunk of Ripple and R3. So very much so a player in this space in the picks and shovels, right? The brick and mortar companies behind the tech, and that is important to recognize because it's only going to get bigger. And when I said that they own a part of SBI, which owns a chunk of Ripple, yes, that's right. And SBI owns a part of Ripple, which Hiding Out Now just reminded us of, and SBI also owns a part of R3. So, okay. Moving on, because we're seeing the toe dipping from the Rothschilds holding GBTC for either a client or themselves, however it goes, this points to the larger narrative that what is coming is $68 trillion worth of the greatest wealth transfer in the history of finance. That's the truth. Experts are telling us that the baby boomers over the next 25 years will be handing down to the Gen Xers and the millennials $68 trillion, and it will move large part into the digital asset space because young Gen Xers and millennials understand what this space is. And they're comfortable with technology and they get it. Even in a lot of respects, no disrespect to metals. I love metals and I wish I had a lot of it. Just like I wish I had about 1,000 or 10,000 Bitcoin right now, but I don't. But hey, if you want to send it, DM me. At any rate, this points to the larger direction of where things are going to go, and I don't think it's going to be hard for them to corral the masses to get them there, because we are going to see a situation at some point where the reality of the entire derivatives market, the stock market, and everything else is overbought, and you're going to see a contraction or a crash, if you will, and some are even saying as much as 80% stock market crash sometime here in the future, and nobody's going to get an email when it happens. It's just going to happen. So understanding that this is what the market will really look like over the next 25 years. So, okay, moving on here. And XRP could even be bigger because we know what it is after when it comes to the derivatives market and the cross-border payments. It is in the hundreds of trillions of dollars. You could even make a case for quadrillions when you consider the DTCC and the back-end settlement there. Okay, now looking at this, going around the world a little bit here, South Korea's blockchain lobby calls for a suspension of crypto tax plans. Korean Blockchains Association is forwarding a proposal to the National Assembly's Planning and Finance Committee requesting a temporary suspension of the tax laws to be imposed. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the real final piece to the puzzle, and it's not XRP. It's taxes. And I'm going to tell you that in large part, along with the regulatory oversight and not having the cluttered understanding between the different agencies here in the United States coming back here domestically, talking about the Digital Commodity Exchange Act, which can really clear things up for the 8 different overlapping agencies about how all of them may see things differently. Like Brad Garlinghouse had cited, one may see it as a commodity, one sees it as security, one sees it as a currency, this, that, and the other. This framework can really kind of clear that up a bit. And what I want to point out to this is really this here all the way at the bottom, because it really just lays it down here. And this is what I want to go to. Once a unit of digital commodity is sold through a registered digital commodity exchange, all trading restrictions on the asset are removed, and it becomes freely usable by any market participant for any purpose. Come on in. I want you to just look, it's passed the House of Representatives. It's in the Agriculture Committee in the Senate. It gets released to the floor for a floor vote. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't pass unless they just don't submit it for a floor vote, full vote on the floor of the Senate. So the reality is Imagine this being passed for a second. This does not address taxes. So the reality is we got to step back and go back to a broader view. Bank of Japan official downplays the fears that China's digital currency is going to rule them all. He says no one single digital currency will dominate global transactions if central banks enhance their own settlement systems. I'm inclined to agree with him. Because the idea is that XRP sit in the middle of all the currencies. This is about all the money. XRP is to be a supplement to global trade, a bridge currency, right? To sit in the middle of all the currencies, because all the currencies will play their own role as a sovereign currency, and then it will be immediately exchanged by this neutral reference point to whatever it needs to be on the other side. So thinking of that, you must have some kind of international approach when it comes to taxes. Well, the OECD has been working on just that. The Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, I've covered them here many times, is an international organization that works to build better policies for better lives. Our goal is to shape policies, foster prosperity, equality, opportunity, and well-being for all. Well, coming back to this is PwC, one of the big four accounting firms in the world, talking about tax policy initial reactions to the OECD published blueprints. Now, there is a two-pillar approach is what they call this, a pillar one and a pillar two approach. And the thing here that is important is, as much as we focus on U.S. and domestic regulation and legislation that needs to happen, taxes internationally must be agreed upon. Again, I've given the example of country A makes supplies and products. Country B is selling an actual good that uses those supplies and products to build their actual product. A lot of times, this is being denominated in USD because the global reserve currency is in USD. However, the US might not be involved with country A or country B. Getting all of this sorted out to where you can get the tax implications figured out for microtransactions, micro tax payments, and how each country can get its little bit of share in this new digital market infrastructure for each transaction that happens. This is what has to be figured out. Now listen here what she says when asked about a unilateral approach for Pillar 1 to Pillar 2, and she does say earlier in the video she believes that they will all choose to go together and they won't go without each other. But she does remark that they really don't need everyone else to start moving forward in a unilateral way. Listen here very quickly.
Basis for both pillars?
I don't see Pillar 2 moving ahead without Pillar 1 because there are too many governments that have insisted on Pillar 1 and Pillar 2 going together. So I think that's unlikely. But I do think that there is a possibility for unilateral measures to continue. Certainly that's been something that some governments have said, that they would move ahead with digital services taxes if there wasn't agreement by the end of 2020. And then, in many respects, Pillar 2 doesn't require agreement among governments. Countries can pick that up, as the U.S., of course, already has.
As the U.S. has already done, right? Now, that is pretty remarkable. So Pillar 2 has already been picked up by the U.S. Now I start to see a real reason why we want to get that Digital Commodities Exchange Act, because it gives the clarity on the exchanges and who is the oversight, the CFTC, right? And once that product is sold off an exchange, they can do whatever they want with it for whatever purpose they want to it. And if this, in fact, is true, the U.S. has picked up Pillar 2, then we know that everybody else needs to get with the program, and we've got our tax plan on an international level to be able to use these digital assets in large part across the globe. And from there, we can see the birth of a global stablecoin, I would think. So from that, I go to this and remind you that this just came out in October. And I'm just going to say it is a report to the G20 and general tax report from the G20 finance ministers, which will be meeting this month along with the IMF that is meeting right now through the 18th. I will just go down here just to show you the table of contents because it's 67 some pages, so I don't want to do that to you. But look here. G20's international tax agenda, tax challenges arising from digitalization of the economy, so on and so on and so on. The final piece to the puzzle is an XRP. I believe behind closed doors and the closed meetings we're not allowed to attend, XRP has been chosen a long time ago. I believe the last final piece to this puzzle comes down to one main thing: taxes. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe. Check the links below. There's really great links of anything you may want or need. Definitely check those out. Those are vetted links. I use every bit of product, all those products and services that are in that comment box and description box. And make sure to click on one of these videos that you're looking at right now that just came up for you guys to look at too. There's some really great content there as well. So make sure you hit the like and subscribe, leave a comment below, and share with somebody you know. I'll catch all of you on the next one.